Welcome to the Open Mic, where bold stories spark big conversations.
Great to be here.
So we actually got an email from one of you listeners pointing us to this really compelling article over on foxnews.com. It's by Melissa Rudy.
Yeah, I read that one. It definitely caught my eye.
Us too. We were hooked pretty much straight away and, just knew we had to unpack it for you in a deep dive.
It really is a fascinating story. It touches on, a lot of things about technology, health, how those two are sort of merging these days.
Absolutely. And the core of it is this woman, Lauren Bannon, a mother who had these really puzzling health issues for months.
And what makes it stand out, really, is how she tried to figure things out.
Exactly. She ended up using OpenAI's ChatGPT, not, initially getting the answers from her doctors. And this eventually led, kind of indirectly, to a diagnosis of thyroid cancer.
Yeah. After her first symptoms were put down to other things, it really throws a spotlight on how AI tools are, becoming part of the landscape for information gathering, even for something as complex as health.
Definitely raises questions, possibilities, but also, the need for caution.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is to really walk through Lauren's experience step by step. Understand what happened, why it's significant, and maybe what it means for you. We're looking at the news article itself, plus some expert commentary to give it context.
Okay, sounds good. Let's dive in. Lauren Bannon's health journey, as the article tells it, started back in February 2024.
And the first symptom she noticed, it was difficulty bending her fingers. Stiffness, mostly in the morning and evening.
Right. And this went on for about 4 months while she was trying to get answers from doctors.
Yeah, 4 frustrating months, you imagine. And eventually, she gets a diagnosis, rheumatoid arthritis.
Which is, an autoimmune condition affecting the joints. But here's the twist.
Her tests for rheumatoid arthritis, they came back negative.
Negative. Which really highlights how tricky diagnosis can be, doesn't it? Symptoms can overlap. Tests aren't always definitive.
Absolutely. Normally, you'd expect a mix of looking at the symptoms and specific blood markers or imaging for RA. If those markers are negative, but the symptoms are there, usually doctors start looking wider.
But in Lauren's case, things unfortunately kept getting worse.
Yeah, the story took another turn. She started getting these excruciating stomach pains. And get this, she lost 14 pounds in just 1 month.
Wow, 14 pounds a month is significant.
Definitely. But at that point, these new symptoms were apparently put down to acid reflux.
So you have joint issues, then severe stomach pain, weight loss. It really paints a picture of someone feeling progressively unwell, but the explanations were sort of symptom by symptom.
Right. Not quite adding up to a whole picture, maybe. And I think a lot of people listening might relate to that feeling, experiencing weird health stuff that doctors struggle to pin down immediately.
That feeling that something is just not right, even if individual things are being treated, it's deeply unsettling. And it's in that state, feeling desperate, that Lauren turned elsewhere for information.
That's the pivot point. She decides to consult OpenAI's ChatGPT.
And the article mentions she wasn't totally new to it, right? She'd used it for work.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't this totally alien thing. It felt like a natural next step for her, another place to look for answers when she felt stuck.
So she goes to ChatGPT. What did she ask it?
The prompt was pretty specific. She asked it, what medical conditions can mimic the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis?
Okay, that's a smart question, trying to broaden the possibilities.
And ChatGPT's response, this is where it gets really interesting. It suggested Hashimoto's disease. And, crucially, it advised her to ask her doctor about checking her thyroid peroxidase antibody levels, the TPO test.
Wow. So the AI, based on patterns in its data, flagged a condition and a specific test that hadn't been the main focus before.
It's kind of an aha moment in the story, isn't it? An AI points towards something the human doctors hadn't zeroed in on yet.
It definitely highlights AI's ability to spot patterns, make connections across vast amounts of information, but, and it's a big but, it's doing that based on statistical correlations in the data it learned from. It's not actual medical diagnosis.
Crucial point. And Lauren, thankfully, took that suggestion back to her doctor, even though the doctor was apparently a bit hesitant.
She pushed for it.
She did. She advocated for herself and asked for that TPO antibody test. This was around September 2024.
And the results?
Positive. Positive for Hashimoto's disease, which was a shock, especially since, according to the article, there was no family history of it.
Okay, so Hashimoto's confirmed. That's an autoimmune condition that affects the thyroid gland.
Right, and that diagnosis naturally led to the next logical step, checking her thyroid.
An ultrasound, typically, to get a visual of the gland.
Exactly. They did an ultrasound of her thyroid, and that's when they found them.
Found what?
2 small lumps, nodules, on her neck.
Oh, wow.
And then, in October 2024, further tests confirmed those nodules were cancerous. Thyroid cancer.
So the Hashimoto's diagnosis, prompted by the ChatGPT suggestion, directly led to the ultrasound that found the cancer.
That's certainly how Lauren sees it. She directly credits ChatGPT's suggestion about Hashimoto's for the cancer discovery.
You can understand why she'd feel that way, given the sequence of events.
Definitely. The article quotes her saying she felt let down by doctors, like appointments were rushed.
That's a sentiment you hear sometimes, unfortunately, patients feeling unheard.
She said, I needed to find out what was happening to me. I just felt so desperate. I just wasn't getting the answers I needed. It really emphasizes that patient perspective, the need to feel empowered.
And it mentions her Hashimoto symptoms weren't typical either, right? No fatigue.
Correct. No fatigue or exhaustion, which are common signs.
Yeah.
That probably made it harder to spot clinically early on. Conditions don't always read the textbook.
Very true. Which makes her reliance on the AI suggestion even more central to her narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She's quoted saying very powerfully, "It saved my life. I would never discover this without ChatGPT. All my tests were perfect." Meaning, presumably, the earlier standard tests hadn't flagged the underlying issues.
That is a strong statement. And based on her experience, she's now encouraging others.
Yeah.
But cautiously.
Yes, very cautiously. She suggests chatbots could be a starting point for investigation, but she strongly emphasizes you must go to doctors for actual testing and diagnosis.
So use it as maybe an idea generator, but the doctor is the decision maker and diagnostician.
Precisely. AI is an info tool, not a replacement doc.
Okay, so that's Lauren's experience. But the article also brings in an expert voice, right?
It does. Dr. Harvey Castro, he's a board-certified emergency medicine physician based in Dallas, and also speaks about AI in medicine. He adds some really important context here.
And what's his take? Is he completely against using AI like this?
No, not completely. He actually sees potential value. He's quoted as welcoming AI tools if they raise awareness or maybe nudge people to seek help faster. He sees the assist and alert potential.
Okay, so acknowledging it can play a role in prompting action.
And this is the core of his message, he draws a very clear line. He strongly cautions against thinking AI can replace human medical expertise.
That seems sensible. What are his exact words on that?
He says, AI is not a replacement for human medical expertise. These tools can assist, alert, and even comfort, but they can't diagnose, examine, or treat.
Right. Can't diagnose, examine, or treat. That covers the fundamental aspects of medical practice.
Exactly. He stresses that diagnosis, treatment planning, that needs the nuanced skills of a licensed professional who sees the whole patient, the whole picture.
He talks about responsible use then, using AI to enhance care rather than replace parts of it.
Yes. He sees the potential for good outcomes when AI is used responsibly, alongside doctors, but warns about the dangers of relying on it alone without that professional oversight.
And his final thought sums it up.
It really does. He concludes, we must prioritize patient safety and keep licensed medical professionals at the center of care.
Keep the doctor central. That seems like the key takeaway from the expert side.
Absolutely. So, listening to all this Lauren's incredible story, Dr. Castro's balanced view, what should you take away?
Well, first, you can't ignore the, frankly, surprising element here. A non-medical AI giving a pointer that ultimately led to a serious diagnosis. That's remarkable.
It is. But then you immediately have to balance that with the expert's crucial warning. AI is not a doctor. Professional medical diagnosis and treatment are absolutely essential.
Right. So maybe think of AI, potentially, as like a super-powered search engine for symptoms, a place to gather initial information or formulate questions for your doctor.
Yeah, maybe a starting point for investigation, something that might spark a conversation with your doctor. But not the final word, not the diagnostician.
It has to lead back to the clinic, to the tests, to the qualified professionals.
Always. This whole story is just a really potent example of how technology is weaving itself into, well, everything, even our most personal health journeys.
Makes you think, doesn't it? About the possibilities, but also very clearly about the boundaries and the risks.
And that's a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning in to The Open Mic.
We hope today's deep dive exploring Lauren Bannon's incredible story of how ChatGPT helped uncover her thyroid cancer, as shared by Fox News, left you amazed and thoughtful about the power of technology in our lives.
Got a story that could inspire, inform, or spark change. Whether it's your own or one you think deserves a spotlight, we're ready to share it.
Let's amplify bold voices and bold ideas, one story at a time.
And hey, if you're a film buff, Drop us your favorite movies, and we might just dive into them on the show.
And also, if you're a music artist with original tracks, important, no samples, please. We'd love to feature your music right here. Let your sound light up our airwaves.
Reach out to us at theopenmicpodcasts@gmail.com. We're always listening.
So maybe something to chew on after this. Think about this evolving relationship. Between us as individuals, these powerful information technologies like AI and our healthcare system. What role, if any, do you see AI playing in your own health journey down the line? And what big questions does a story like Lauren Bannon's raise for the future of how we diagnose illness?